The sky over Harrow's Reach turned black without warning. No storm clouds gathered, no thunder rolled. One moment, the twin suns shone pale and steady. The next, 3 long, needle-shaped ships hung motionless above the settlement. Their hulls drank light instead of reflecting it. Shadows seemed to leak from their edges like smoke. Down on the dusty main street, people stopped what they were doing. A woman carrying a basket of root vegetables froze mid-step. A mechanic working under a tractor let his wrench fall. Children playing tag near the water tower looked up, mouths open. The air felt heavier, as if fear itself had weight. Robert Klein stood just outside the open door of his general store. He was 48, with gray starting at his temples and lines around his eyes from years of squinting at price tags and repair manuals. He wore a faded blue shirt and worn boots. In one hand he held a small crate of canned peaches he had been about to put on the shelf. He set the crate down slowly. Across the street, Megan Torres stepped out of the schoolhouse. She was 39, with dark hair pulled back in a simple knot and a soft green sweater that had seen better days. 20 children followed her, holding hands in pairs, the way she always taught them during drills. She did not run. She walked forward with steady steps, keeping the line tight. Then the broadcast began. It did not come from speakers. It came straight into every mind. Clear images appeared behind closed eyelids and burned behind open ones. A mother saw her daughter torn apart by unseen claws. A father watched his home collapse in fire while his family screamed inside. Children saw their parents turn into monsters with empty eyes. The pictures changed fast, personal, cruel, perfect. No 2 people saw exactly the same thing, but everyone felt the same cold spike of terror. Most of the settlement dropped to their knees. Some curled into balls and sobbed. A few tried to run toward the edge of town, but their legs would not move right. The fear rooted them. It whispered that escape was impossible, that the end had already happened, that nothing mattered anymore. Robert Klein looked around. He saw old Mr. Harlan on the porch of the clinic, clutching his chest. He saw the baker's wife hugging her toddler so tight the child cried. He saw the boy, little Sam, 10 years old, who often came to the store for licorice sticks. Sam stood alone in the middle of the street, his small fists clenched at his sides. His whole body shook. Tears streamed down his dirty cheeks, but he made no sound. Robert walked over. The street felt long under his boots. The psychic pressure pushed against his skull like fingers trying to pry it open. Images flashed in his own head. His wife who had died 5 years earlier, coughing blood in their bed. His store burning. Every person he knew, broken and gone. They felt real. He ignored them. He reached Sam and knelt so their eyes were level. "Hey, buddy," he said in the same quiet voice he used when Sam counted out pennies for gum. "Look right here. At me. Not up there. Not at whatever they're showing you. Just me." Sam's eyes flicked to Robert's face. They were wide and glassy. "Breathe with me," Robert said. "In through your nose, out through your mouth, slow, like when we blow out birthday candles. You remember that?" Sam tried. His breathing hitched, but he copied Robert's. "In, out, in, out." "Good," Robert said. "Now listen. Remember last summer when we went to the creek? You caught that little silver fish and named him Flash. You let him go because you said he looked too fast for a bucket. You smiled so big your cheeks hurt. Think about that instead." The broadcast pushed harder. New images slammed in. Sam's parents dead. The creek dried up. Flash rotting on the bank. Sam whimpered. Robert kept going. "Or that time you helped me fix the sign out front. You held the ladder steady even when it wobbled. You didn't let go. You're good at not letting go, Sam. You're good at a lot of things. Megan Torres reached them. She had the children in a tight circle behind her. She looked at Robert. No words passed between them. She simply started to sing. It was an old lullaby, one her grandmother used to hum. The words were simple. The tune was slow and steady. Sleep, little one, the stars are bright. Moon will watch you through the night. Winds may blow and shadows creep, but love will hold you safe and deep. Her voice trembled at first. Then it found its place. The children joined in, small and uncertain. A few adults nearby heard it. They added their voices. Not loud, not angry, just present. The song moved through the street like a warm current. It did not drown the Dominion broadcast. Nothing could do that. But it gave people something to hold on to. Something real. Robert kept talking to Sam. Soft stories, bad jokes about why chickens cross roads, memories of pie cooling on windowsills. Nothing special, just life. Hours passed, the suns moved lower. The shadow ships stayed overhead, silent and patient. The psychic assault never let up. Yet no one attacked the cruisers. No one fired useless shots. No one begged on open channels. People held hands. They sang when they could. They whispered names of family members. They remembered small kindnesses. A woman shared her water bottle with a stranger. A man carried an elderly neighbor inside when her legs gave out. Simple things. Human things. As the first sun dipped below the horizon, the three cruisers shifted. Their shadows pulled back like retreating ink. Without a word, without a final image, they folded space and vanished. Silence fell over Harrow's Reach. Real silence. No broadcast. No fear forced into minds. Only the sound of breathing, soft crying, and the distant creak of the windmill. Robert helped Sam to his feet. The boy clung to his leg for a moment, then let go. "Thanks, Mr. Klein," he whispered. "Any time," Robert said. Megan walked over. Her face was pale and streaked with dried tears, but her eyes were clear. "They left," she said. Robert nodded. "Yeah, they did." People began to move. Slowly. They helped each other up. They checked on neighbors. They lit lanterns as darkness settled. No one cheered. No one declared victory. They just kept going. High above, inside the lead cruiser, Overlord Vexen watched the playback. Its eyeless face turned toward its lieutenants. Tendrils of shadow curled tight. "They did not break," it said. The voice was cold metal wrapped in silk. Fear was delivered in full measure. Yet they endured. Through songs, through stories, through touch. An anomaly. The settlement is small. Isolated. It will not spread. Vexen was quiet for a long moment. "We have ruled by fear for a millennium. No species has ever refused it so completely. Not with weapons, not with rage, with ordinary things." Another lieutenant spoke. "Shall we return? Crush them now?" "No," Vexen said. "Not yet. We watch, we learn, we find the source. Because if this spreads, if this quiet refusal touches other worlds, our empire ends." The cruiser turned and slipped into the dark between stars. Below, on Harrow's Reach, Robert Klein opened his store again the next morning. He swept the porch. He restocked shelves. Megan Torres rang the school bell. Children came running, a little quieter than usual, but they came. Life went on. But something had changed. A small spark had held against the dark. The shadow ships returned at dawn. Not 3 this time. 12. They filled the sky like dark knives, cutting through the pale light of the twin suns. No broadcast this time. No psychic assault. Just raw presence. Engines hummed low and deep. The ground shook slightly as landing pods dropped from the bellies of the cruisers. Dust rose in thick clouds when they touched down. People ran from houses and fields. Children cried out for parents. Adults grabbed what they could: shovels, tools, old hunting rifles, but no one fired. They knew it was useless. The Dominion did not come to negotiate. Robert Klein stood in the middle of the main street. He wore the same faded blue shirt. His hands hung loose at his sides. He watched the pods open. Tall figures stepped out. They were wrapped in living shadow that moved like liquid smoke. Their faces had no eyes, only smooth black surfaces that reflected nothing. Long tendrils curled from their shoulders. Each carried a thin rod that glowed faintly at the tip. The lead figure, the Overlord Vexen itself, walked forward. Its steps made no sound on the packed dirt. It stopped 10 feet from Robert. The settlement gathered slowly behind him. Men, women, children. They stood close together. No one spoke. Vexen tilted its head. A voice came from everywhere and nowhere, cold and smooth. You are the source, the one who talks to fear, the one who sings against it. Kneel, beg, or they all burn. Robert looked up at the towering shape. He did not flinch. I won't kneel, he said, and I won't beg. Vexen's tendrils twitched. Then watch them die, one by one, starting with the young ones. A squad of shadow troops moved toward the schoolhouse. Children screamed. Parents stepped in front, arms out. Robert raised one hand. Wait, he said. The troops stopped. Vexen turned back to him. Robert took a slow breath. He looked around at the faces he knew so well. Sam, now taller, but still wide-eyed. The baker's wife holding her toddler. Old Mr. Harlan leaning on his cane. Megan's empty classroom waiting behind them. If it's me you want, Robert said, take me. Let them go. No tricks, no traps, just my life for theirs. Vexen made a sound like breaking ice. One life against a settlement? How small you think. Robert stepped closer. One life, mine, in exchange for every person here. They walk free. They keep their homes. They keep their lives. You get what you came for. The spark goes out. Silence stretched. The wind moved dust across the street. Vexen studied him. Tendrils curled slowly. You would die for them, it said, not a question. Yes, Robert answered. Vexen turned to its troops. A single gesture. The squad pulled back from the school. Bring him, Vexen said. 2 troops stepped forward. They grabbed Robert's arms. He did not fight. He looked back at the people. Keep going, he said. Keep teaching. Keep helping each other. That's all it takes. Don't stop. A woman started to cry. A child reached out. Robert gave them the same small smile he used when handing out candy. The troops lifted him. They carried him to a waiting pod. The door closed. The pod rose. It docked with the largest cruiser overhead. The settlement watched in silence as the ship stayed. No one moved. No one ran. Then the broadcast began again. This time only one image. Robert Klein inside a bare metal room on the flagship. He stood straight. No chains, no wounds yet. Vexen stood before him. The voice filled every mind below. Witness, it said. This is what happens to hope. A thin rod extended from Vexen's tendril. The tip glowed bright white. It touched Robert's chest. No scream, no struggle, just a flash of light. Robert's body jerked once. Then he fell. Clean, quick. A small hole burned through his shirt. No blood, just stillness. The image froze on his face. Eyes open, calm even in death. The broadcast cut. Silence covered Harrow's reach like a heavy blanket. Then a figure walked out from the edge of the crowd. Megan Torres, thin, bruised, hair tangled, clothes torn, but alive. The agents had released her that morning, thinking her broken, thinking her return would crush what remained. She walked to the center of the street. People parted for her. She climbed onto a wooden crate that had once held Robert's canned goods. She looked at the faces around her. Tears ran down her cheeks, but her voice stayed steady. "He said to keep going," she said, "so we keep going." She started the lullaby, soft at first. Her throat hurt from days of silence and fear. But she sang. "Sleep, little one, the stars are bright." One child joined, then another. Parents added their voices. Soon the whole settlement sang. Not loud enough to reach the ships above, but loud enough to fill the street. Loud enough to push back the empty space Robert had left. Megan kept singing until her voice cracked. Then she stopped. She looked up at the sky where the cruiser still hung. "You took him," she said, "not to the Dominion, to the people around her. But you didn't take what he gave us. We still have each other. We still have tomorrow." She stepped down. People gathered close. Someone put a blanket around her shoulders. Someone else brought water. They moved as one, quiet, careful, together. High above, Overlord Vexen watched the scene through the broadcast feed. The settlement sang. They did not break. They did not scatter. They held. Vexen's tendrils tightened. "He is gone," it said to its lieutenants. "The vector is dead, yet the effect remains." One lieutenant hissed, "Kill them all. End it now." Vexen was quiet for a long moment. "No. Watch. See if it fades without him. If it does not, then we return. And this time, we burn everything." The ships lifted. They folded space and vanished. Below, the people did not cheer. They did not celebrate. They simply started cleaning up. They repaired what the pods had damaged. They fed the children. They sat together in small groups and talked about Robert, about his bad jokes, about how he always had time to listen, about how he died with his eyes open and no fear on his face. Megan went to the store that evening. She opened the door with the key Robert had given her years ago. She turned on the lights. She sat behind the counter. She looked at the shelves he had stocked so carefully. A boy, Sam, came in quietly. He stood in the doorway. "Miss Torres," he said. She looked up. "Yes, Sam? Can we still have class tomorrow?" Megan smiled through fresh tears. "Yes, we can. In here. Until the school is ready again." Sam nodded. "Mr. Klein would like that." "He would," she said. Sam left. Megan stayed. She pulled out a notebook Robert had kept, lists of what people needed, what they owed, what they could share. She turned the pages slowly. Outside, lanterns lit the streets, songs drifted from houses. Small fires burned in yards where people gathered to talk and remember. The spark had not gone out. It had jumped, from one ordinary heart to many. And the Dominion would soon learn what happens when fire spreads in the dark. The suns rose over Harrow's Reach the morning after Robert Klein died. The sky looked the same pale blue it always had. Dust settled on the streets. Houses stood quiet, but something felt different. The air carried a new weight, not fear, but resolve. Megan Torres woke early. She washed her face with cold water from the basin. Bruises still marked her arms and cheek from the days she had spent locked in a small cell on the Dominion cruiser. She dressed in a clean shirt and walked to the general store. The door was unlocked. Robert had never locked it at night. Inside, the shelves waited exactly as he had left them. She stood behind the counter for a long moment. Then she pulled out the notebook he kept and opened it to a fresh page. She wrote one line at the top. "Class today at 9. Word moved fast in a small settlement. By the time the first children arrived, more followed. Parents came too. They sat on crates and barrels, just like before. Megan did not speak about the execution. She did not cry in front of them. She simply started the lesson where Robert had left off the day before he was taken. Simple math. Stories from old books. Questions about the world beyond their dusty fields. When a girl asked why Mr. Klein was gone, Megan looked at her gently. "He gave us something important," she said. "He showed us we can keep going, even when it hurts. So that's what we do. We keep going." The girl nodded. Another child started the lullaby without being asked. The others joined. The sound filled the store. Soft, steady. It drifted out the open door and into the street. That afternoon, people gathered in small groups. They talked quietly. A farmer named Kevin Brooks listened from the edge of one circle. Kevin was 28, with strong hands from years of fixing machines. He had repaired Robert's old truck more times than he could count. He had watched the broadcast from the roof of his workshop. He had seen Robert fall without a sound. Kevin walked home. He sat at his workbench. Tools lay scattered around him. He stared at a small metal box he had started building weeks earlier. A shield against the psychic waves the Dominion used. He had never finished it. Now he picked up his soldering iron. He worked through the night. By morning the box hummed faintly when he turned it on. It blocked the test signal he sent from an old comm unit. He carried it to Megan the next day. "Try this," he said. "If they come back with their mind tricks, this might help." Megan took the box. She tested it. The faint pressure that still lingered in her head, the echo of fear, faded when she stood near it. She looked at Kevin. "Thank you," she said. "We'll make more." Word of the shield spread. Kevin taught others how to build them. Neighbors brought scrap metal, wires, old circuit boards. They worked in garages and barns. Simple devices at first, then better ones. Not weapons. Just quiet protection. Lisa Grant joined them. She had been a nurse before the settlement grew. She organized supplies, bandages, water purifiers, basic medicine. She taught people how to treat burns and cuts without waiting for help from off-world. She set up a small clinic in the old clinic building. Neighbors helped clean it. They stocked shelves with what they had. Small acts grew. A family shared their last harvest with another that had lost crops to dust storms. A mechanic fixed a neighbor's rover for free. Children helped elders carry water. No one called it heroic. They called it normal. They called it what Robert would have done. Stories began to travel. A supply ship landed once a month. The pilot listened to what happened. He carried the tale to the next port. From there it jumped to other fringe worlds. People on distant colonies heard about the man who traded his life so others could live free. They heard how the settlement refused to break. They heard the lullaby sung over crackling comms. On one world called Dusthaven, miners stopped work for a moment of silence. On another, called Greenbelt, teachers started classes with the same lullaby. On a third, pilots shared the story in bars. One guy stood up, they said. Didn't fight with guns, just didn't let fear win. The Dominion felt the change. Reports came in from agents on dozens of worlds. Fear worked less. Populations hesitated before kneeling. Some whispered Robert's last words. Keep going. Some sang quietly when shadow ships appeared. Not defiance yet, not rebellion, just refusal to crumble completely. Overlord Vexen sat in its chamber aboard the flagship. Screens showed data streams. Fear compliance rates dropped. Not fast, not everywhere, but enough to notice. Tendrils curled tight. Kill the woman, it ordered. She carries the flame now. But before they could move, something new happened. Kevin Brooks finished a larger shield. He mounted it on a tower at the edge of town. It covered the whole settlement in a faint bubble. When the next scout ship arrived to test the air, the psychic probe bounced off. The ship hovered for hours, then left without landing. Megan stood under the tower that night. She looked up at the stars. He would be proud, she said to no one. Lisa Grant came up beside her. He is proud, she said, wherever he is. People started to leave small things at the spot in the street where Robert had stood. A pebble, a flower from the greenhouse, a piece of candy wrapped in paper. No statue, no monument, just quiet reminders. Months passed. The settlement grew stronger. More shields, more supplies, more stories, more people willing to share what little they had. One evening, a stranger landed. A young woman from a nearby colony. She carried a small recorder. She asked to speak with Megan. I heard what happened, she said. I want to take the story farther. People need to hear it. Megan looked at her for a long time. Tell them the truth, she said. He wasn't special. He was just kind. He cared. That's all it took. The woman left with recordings of the lullaby, of children laughing, of people working together. The story spread wider. On Harrow's Reach, life continued. Megan taught classes. Kevin built machines. Lisa healed wounds. Neighbors helped neighbors. The Dominion watched. They sent more scouts. They found shields. They found songs. They found people who looked at the sky without trembling. Vexen stared at the latest report. The spark did not die, it said. It multiplied. A lieutenant hissed. Then we crushed the source. All of them. Vexen was quiet. No, it said at last. We watch. We wait. Because if we strike now, we make martyrs. And martyrs burn brighter than any single life. The ships pulled back. Not gone. Not yet. But farther. Waiting. Below, in the store that had become a school, Megan closed the book for the day. Children ran outside to play. Parents gathered to talk. Kevin carried in a new shield part. Lisa brought fresh bandages. Megan looked around at all of them. He started this, she said softly, but we keep it going. Outside, the twin suns set slow and golden. Shadows stretched long across the street, but the shadows no longer felt heavy. A small fire had started in the dark, and fire does not ask permission to spread. The years after Robert Klein's death passed slowly on Harrow's Reach, but they passed with purpose. The settlement grew. New houses rose from the dust. Greenhouses expanded under stronger domes. Children who had once hidden under desks during shadow ship visits now ran freely through streets lit by solar lamps. The twin suns still rose and set, but the sky no longer felt like a threat waiting to open. Megan Torres grew older. Her dark hair turned silver at the roots. Lines deepened around her eyes and mouth from years of smiling through hard days. She still taught every morning in the store that had become a proper schoolhouse. The shelves now held books instead of canned goods. Desks replaced crates. Children sat straight and listened. She never raised her voice. She never needed to. Kevin Brooks kept building. His small shields turned into town-wide networks. Towers stood at every corner, humming softly. When scout ships came, and they still came, they found their psychic waves bouncing uselessly away. Kevin married a quiet woman named Clara who helped him wire circuits late into the night. They had 2 sons who learned to fix things before they learned to read. Lisa Grant ran the clinic with steady hands. She trained young people to stitch wounds, set bones, and calm fevers. Supplies arrived more often now, medicine from nearby colonies, tools from traders who heard the story and wanted to help. Lisa never asked for payment. She simply said, "Pay it forward when you can." Word of Harrow's Reach spread farther than anyone expected. Supply pilots carried recordings of the lullaby. Traders whispered about the man who died smiling so others could live. On distant worlds, people listened. Miners paused their drills to hear the story again. Farmers shared it over evening meals. Teachers played the old audio in classrooms. It was not a call to arms. It was a reminder. One person can change the weight of fear. Small colonies began to copy what they heard. They built simple shields from scrap. They sang when ships appeared. They helped neighbors without being asked. Fear still came. The Dominion still sent cruisers. But the cruisers found less surrender, more quiet refusal, more hands reaching out instead of knees bending. Overlord Vexen watched from its throne of shadow. Reports piled up like ash. Compliance rates fell year by year. Worlds once silent now answered broadcasts with songs. Agents sent back images of children playing under shield domes. Adults working side by side without looking at the sky in terror. Vexen's tendrils no longer curled in anger. They hung limp. One day Vexen summoned its council. The chamber was dark and cold. Lieutenants stood in rows, silent. The method fails, Vexen said. Fear no longer holds. It slips away when met with connection. We have lost the tool that built the empire. A lieutenant dared to speak. Then we use force. Full fleets. Burn the fringe worlds. Vexen turned its eyeless face toward the voice. And create more martyrs? More stories? More songs that travel faster than our ships? No. Force feeds the fire we tried to put out. Silence filled the chamber. We withdraw, Vexen said at last. We pull back to the core systems. We watch from afar. Perhaps in time the flame burns itself out. Perhaps not. But we will not feed it anymore. The order went out. Shadow cruisers folded space and left the fringe. One by one, the patrols ended. The psychic amplifiers went quiet. The Dominion turned inward. Its empire shrank, not from war, but from something stronger. People who stopped being afraid. Decades later, Harrow's Reach looked different. Tall wind turbines spun above the fields. Children learned history, not just of Earth, but of their own small world. They learned about Robert Klein, not as a hero in shining armor, as a man who ran a store, who fixed things, who talked to a scared boy in the street and refused to let fear win the moment. A simple stone stood in the central square. No grand statue, just a flat rock with his name carved in plain letters and one line below. He said, "Keep going." So we did. Megan Torres visited the stone often. She walked slower now, leaning on a stick carved from local wood. Children still called her Miss Torres. They brought her drawings and flowers. She sat on a bench nearby and watched them play. One afternoon, a girl of about 10 sat beside her. The girl had dark hair like Megan once did. She held a small recorder. "Miss Torres," the girl said, "tell me about Mr. Klein again." Megan smiled. He was ordinary. He liked bad jokes. He always had time to listen. When the ships came, he didn't fight them with guns. He fought them with kindness, with stories, with staying calm when everyone else was scared. The girl looked at the stone. Did it hurt when he died? Megan thought for a moment. Yes, it still does sometimes. But he gave us something that hurts less than fear. He gave us each other. The girl nodded. We sing the lullaby every night. My mom says it keeps the dark away. Megan reached over and touched the girl's hand. That's good. Keep singing. The girl ran off to join her friends. Megan stayed on the bench. She looked up at the clear sky. No shadows today. Only light. Far away, on a core world of the Dominion, Overlord Vexen had grown old. Its shadow form had thinned. Tendrils barely moved. It sat alone in a vast chamber and watched old recordings, the settlement singing, children laughing, shields humming. It played the moment of Robert's death again. The final words. For the first time in centuries, Vexen felt something close to understanding. They did not conquer us, it whispered to the empty room. They simply refused to be conquered. The empire faded quietly. Fleets rusted in docks. Psychic amplifiers gathered dust. Worlds once ruled by dread found new ways to live. Not perfect, not without struggle, but free of the constant weight of manufactured terror. On Harrow's Reach, life went on. Megan taught her last class one spring morning. She told the children to remember the stories, to share them, to help when they could. Then she retired to a small house near the square. Neighbors brought food. Children visited. She spent evenings on the porch, listening to the wind and the distant songs. One night, under a sky full of stars, Megan closed her eyes for the last time. She felt no fear, only peace, the lullaby playing softly in her mind as she slipped away. The settlement mourned quietly. They sang at her passing. They placed a second stone beside Robert's. Same simple style. Her name, one line. She kept the song alive. Years turned to decades. The children grew up. They had children of their own. The shields stayed up, but fewer ships came to test them. The Dominion became a memory, a chapter in history books that said, "They ruled by fear, until one man died, proving fear was not the end." On quiet evenings, people still gathered in the square. They sang the old lullaby. They told the story to new generations. Not with anger, not with pride, with gratitude. Because one ordinary man had stood in a street and said, "Keep going." And the galaxy had listened. The fire he sparked never needed armies or fleets. It needed only hearts, willing to care, to endure, to refuse the dark. And so it spread, slow, steady, unstoppable, until the shadows had nowhere left to hide. The days after the shadow ships left Harrow's Reach felt strange. People moved slower. They spoke softer. They checked on neighbors more often. No one talked much about what had happened. They just did small things to feel normal again. Robert Klein opened his store at the usual time. He swept the porch, arranged cans on the shelves, and greeted customers with the same quiet nod he always used. Megan Torres rang the school bell. Children came in groups, holding hands tighter than before. She read stories and drew pictures on the chalkboard. Life tried to settle back into its old shape. But the Dominion did not forget. Far away, on the command deck of the lead cruiser, Overlord Vexen studied the recordings again and again. The eyeless face turned toward screens that showed every face in the settlement during the broadcast. It paused on Robert Klein kneeling in the street. It paused on Megan Torres starting the lullaby. It paused on the way people gathered closer when they heard the song. The Overlord made no sound for a long time. Then it spoke to its lieutenants. "These two," it said, "they are the source. Ordinary, unarmed, yet fear slipped through their fingers like water. Find out why. Break them, quietly." 3 agents were chosen. They wore human skin suits grown in vats, perfect copies of travelers who had once passed through fringe worlds. One became a trader named Carl. Another a mechanic called Dana. The third a quiet widow named Ellen. They arrived separately over the next weeks. They rented small rooms. They bought supplies from Robert's store. They watched. Carl sat at the counter while Robert weighed bags of grain. He asked simple questions. "How did you stay calm when the ships came?" Robert shrugged. "Just kept talking to the kid. Didn't think much about it." Carl bought extra flour and left. Dana helped fix a broken water pump near the school. Megan thanked her. Dana asked, "Why did you sing? Weren't you scared?" Megan wiped her hands on her apron. "Of course I was scared, but the children needed something steady. A song is steady." Dana nodded and walked away. Ellen came to the store late one evening. She bought a small jar of honey and a candle. While Robert wrapped them, she said softly, "I lost someone in a raid years ago. Fear never left me after that. How do you make it leave?" Robert looked at her for a moment. You don't make it leave, you just don't let it sit alone with you. You talk to people. You help where you can. It gets smaller that way. Ellen paid and left with the package. The agent sent reports every night. The answers were always the same. No secret training, no hidden weapons, no special bloodline. Just two people who treated fear like a bad guest, something to sit with, not something to obey. The Dominion grew impatient. Orders came. Isolate the vectors. Start with the woman. She is softer. Easier to break. It happened on a quiet night. Megan had stayed late at the school to grade papers by lantern light. The settlement was asleep. Wind moved gently across the fields. Two agents in dark clothes slipped through the back door. They moved fast and silent. A cloth pressed over her mouth, a needle in her arm. She struggled for only a few seconds before her eyes closed. They carried her out to a small cargo rover hidden behind the grain silos. By dawn, she was gone. They left a message. They used a plasma cutter to burn words into the school wall. Hope dies first. The letters were tall and black, edges still glowing red when the first light of morning touched them. The settlement woke to screams. A child found the message first, then parents came running. People gathered in front of the school. Some cried, some stood frozen. Whispers spread fast. Raiders, kidnappers, the Dominion come back to finish what they started. Robert Klein walked up slowly. He read the words without speaking. His face stayed calm, but his hands tightened at his sides. He turned to the crowd. She's gone, he said. We don't know where yet, but we know she's strong. She'll hold on, and we'll hold on too. He did not promise rescue. He did not shout for revenge. He simply walked back to his store and opened the door. People watched him go. A few followed. They sat on crates inside, while he made coffee on the small stove behind the counter. He poured cups and passed them out. No one spoke much. They just sat together. That afternoon, Robert went to the school. He looked at the burned words for a long time. Then he took a bucket of white paint from his store and a wide brush. He painted over the message in careful strokes. The black letters disappeared under smooth white. When he finished, he stepped back. A girl, about 12, came up beside him. What do we do now, Mr. Klein? Robert looked down at her. We keep going. Megan would want the kids to learn. We'll use my store for classes until we get the school fixed. Word spread. That evening, after the sun set, people came to the store. Children first, then parents. They sat on boxes and barrels. Robert pulled out old books Megan had lent him. He read aloud. His voice was steady. When he finished a chapter, a mother started a song, the same lullaby. Others joined. The sound filled the small space. The next day more came. Adults asked Robert to show them how to fix broken tools. He taught them step by step. A farmer brought vegetables from his field. Someone else brought bread. They shared food while they worked and listened. The agents watched from shadows. Carl reported to the cruiser. The vector is not broken. He has started teaching. People come to him. The woman is gone, but her place is filled. It is growing roots. Overlord Vexen listened to the report in silence. Tendrils of shadow twisted tighter around its form. Break him next, it ordered. Make it public. Make it painful. Let the settlement see what happens when they cling to hope. The agents planned carefully. They waited for the right moment. Robert Klein kept the store open every day. He greeted customers. He helped with lessons. He listened when people needed to talk about their fear. He never spoke of revenge. He never spoke of giving up. Weeks passed. The settlement changed slowly. People smiled more. Children laughed again. Songs drifted from houses at night. Small acts of kindness multiplied. A neighbor fixed another's roof without being asked. A family shared their last water ration during a dry spell. The agents saw it all. They sent one final message to the cruiser. The spark multiplies. Remove one, another appears. Action is required soon. High above, Overlord Vexen stared at the planet below. Its voice was cold. Then we stop being subtle. We return in force. We take the man. We end him where they can watch. Let them see hope bleed out on the ground. The shadow ships began to move again. Not 3 this time. More. Many more. On Harrow's Reach, Robert Klein closed the store one evening. He looked up at the sky. Stars shone clear. No ships yet. But he felt something coming. He locked the door. He walked home through quiet streets. A few people waved. He waved back. Inside his small house, he sat at the kitchen table. He took out a photo of his late wife. He looked at it for a long time. If it's me they want, he said softly to the empty room, then let it be me. Just keep them safe. He went to bed. Sleep came slow. But when it came, it was deep. Outside, the wind whispered across the fields. Somewhere far away, engines hummed in the dark. The Dominion was coming back. And this time, they would not leave without blood.